go.
And now it's time to increment. Hey, everybody, here's this Agile thing. I'm Matt Beam.
I'm Mike Markey.
And I'm Jeff Singleton.
And we're now incrementing our time. This is a live stream. Every Saturday we do this, mostly, unless we don't. We're live streaming onto YouTube. And this ships a thing. Yeah, not to ships.
Let's not talk about ships. I mean, they're
that was always
interesting.
bullshit.
We occasionally have guests.
It's like year 4 in our roadmap is to get to the ships at sea.
Like, there's a guest.
Well, whatever you do, don't ship your pants.
What if you need to get them right away, though?
Don't know.
Anyway.
They never respond right away.
So this Saturday, what is this? It's probably November the 16th.
It is. It's
we don't have any
remarkably
guests.
close to the middle of November.
It is. It is. It's fall here. In
And
Illinois.
it was super. It was like a super moon last night. Like a remarkably large, bright, full moon.
Somebody told me that. I didn't check. Is that true?
It is.
Mm-hmm.
We were driving in the dark, and it was a very bright companion.
Didn't need headlights, did you?
Hey, I just put new ones back in the car, so yes, we needed headlights.
Ah.
I had come up with the bright idea, no pun intended, to replace the headlights in my car with LED headlights, and those LEDs have a flat surface with an LED on this side and an LED on that side, instead of, say, a cylinder from whence light projects. And when you key them into the socket, one of them was oriented this way and the other one was oriented this way, and not up like this or not down like this. That's the way the socket was shaped. And because of that, one of them would shine down at the oncoming traffic lane off to the side and up into the sky. And the other one was shining up at the right side. And then anyway, what ended up happening is one side of one of the LEDs went out and that whole side of the car went dark. It was like you couldn't see the right shoulder at all. It was so it had to go. I had to put regular halogens back in.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that more people are using their brights at night when they drive? Specifically when they're driving towards me. Have you noticed that?
I've never observed people putting their brights through. Are you sure they're their brights and not you're just becoming more sensitive to them?
Well, exactly. This is the gist of my question. This might be the old man yells at cloud era of my life that I am now entering. But I've noticed in the past 6 months, let's say, all these start driving around with their brights on. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll be like, I'll flash my brights. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is the person who already had their brights on turns their lights on even brighter.
So what you're saying is
either
I believe that is a sign that you're the old man and yelling at the cloud.
It's got to be, right? It's got to be.
The old man in the sea.
As more and more headlights go to LED, the color is going whiter and less yellow. So it is inherently brighter. And then
my eyes are more sensitive to it.
And then you say, "Hey, your brights are on," by flashing him, and then he says, "Oh yeah."
It's either that or they have introduced 3 levels of brightness for headlights, which seems way more unlikely.
Some cars do. Okay, I'll give you this one. Some cars have 2 separate filaments or bulbs, right? There's the low beam, there's the high beam. And there is just hold the thing and you get both. But normally when you're doing low beams, you only get the one bulb. That's
what they're doing to
when
me.
you do which you did to them, by the way, when you told them.
Just like, no, you're not the victim. Damn it.
Yeah. When you said, "Hey, you got your brights on, here's all 3 of my filaments going," or all
that could be what
4.
they did.
Yeah.
Right.
And they said, "Okay, well, here's all mine." And sometimes it's like, "Oh, I've been driving and I've thought, oh, that person's got their brights on. I'm going to flash them." And then I did. And then they showed me that they had a lot more.
Yeah.
It could have gone, it could have been so much worse.
I'll see your bright and I'll raise you a bright.
So I tend to, if I'm looking at somebody or driving, I'll just sort of avert my eyes more off to the right until they pass. And then
I guess that's the answer. It's the dumbest altercation to be involved in, that's for sure.
It's
People with their lights being too bright. Anyway, I just
don't
wanted
know.
to ask that. Well, I mean, it irritates me every night.
every night. Well, you'll just have to stop driving at night. That's the other old thing to do.
I guess. Wrap up all my errands by 5.
Got to get over to the Golden Corral for the 3:00 feed.
Golden. So did Golden Corral take over for Golden Bear? Remember Golden Bear?
No, I don't.
Golden Bear. It's a
I
honey.
vaguely remember that.
Where food is.
I know
fun.
there was Old Country Buffet, and there was
And there's
Golden
no old
Corral.
country for buffet men, or no country for
There's
men.
no-
Holy shit.
there's no Old Country for old men.
That's a really good movie.
buffet.
I just saw that again.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Anyway, this
That-
is the live
that
stream,
one.
gentlemen. I don't know. This is what our
Anybody want to join in this conversation?
audience of 4 is expecting at a Saturday at 10.
Is there anyone on the stream? I don't think there's anyone there.
Let's see. I can tell.
We did get a new subscriber though.
0. Yeah, last week.
Okay.
Last week we didn't do anything. The week before that we had 4.
Wow.
4.
People
It's
were
low-key
still-
stressing me out.
Mindful. You know, you don't show up for a week. They just stop caring about you.
Exactly. There's a
This
different
world, this world cannot abide lack of content. Either that or last weekend nobody was in the mood.
Well, there's nothing really going on, is there? I mean, what is there to talk about?
Well,
Nothing.
there was a there's the oldie but the goodie in going on in LinkedIn right now, where yet another helpful individual has declared that Scrum is useless and dead and never should have seen the light of day.
He's right, of course.
Everyone's right in their own
Based
own
on
way.
their perspective and where they're standing and what they mean by the words and how they define stuff and the reason and the viewpoint that they have. Like he's probably trying to, I don't
make
know.
a point of some
Yeah.
kind.
Or he's trying to do something that Scrum isn't helpful for. So therefore Scrum isn't helpful.
Yeah.
For them, right.
Right.
Well, and I believe the evidence they were citing was that the State of Agile report is now only showing about 63% of Agile implementations are using Scrum, as opposed to the former glory days of 80%. And that can be described. That can be explained a lot of ways. Not necessarily Scrum is falling out of favor, but that there's more competition. Right. So it's not.
Yeah, or maybe whenever that 80% number came from, maybe that was in an era where people were really excited about Scrum and everybody wanted to be doing Scrum and you wanted to be seen as doing Scrum. And so there's this phenomenon in polling called herding. And I don't know that herding is happening here,
Okay.
but the idea
Why is it only in
everybody sort of-
Poland that there's herding?
No, not Poland, not the country. The activity of polling of
Oh,
Oh, polling.
You thought,
polling. Gotcha,
statistically
gotcha.
speaking, I don't know.
I thought
Maybe it's a
we'd
ley
stopped
line
doing
or a
Polish
magnetic
jokes
something.
a long time ago.
We
That
did. We did stop with the really pissed off the polls. No, it's called herding. Oh, we work so well because of the reindeer in Poland. Anyway,
Yeah.
the way everybody knows what they think the answer should be from their polls, so they get the answer that they expect, or they're like, I wonder why we didn't get the answer that we expected. Maybe we should pull some more samples, or change our method slightly, or do something else until we get the answer that we know we expected. And so, therefore, all these different polls tend to converge on the same thing. That it's a form of it's shitty science, technically.
So there's, as I was reading his rant,
Who is this person, by the way?
I don't care.
At this point, it doesn't matter because
It doesn't matter.
Everybody's
It's
got
person A,
some
person
rant
B. Everybody's
anyway.
trying to make their
this
name
guy.
saying
Exactly.
Yes.
so. But they were stating the dates. They were saying, well, in 2020 is when Scrum started falling out of favor, and I'm like, huh. You know, there's other correlations of activities that were happening in the 2020 area when things started to fall off the shelf, And maybe it has more to do with the fact that people went from being co-located to being almost exclusively distributed. Like
Totally.
maybe the breakdown in Scrum, or the fact that Scrum has suffered a hiccup in popularity, has more to do with the fact that Scrum works better with instantaneous communication, and that than it does with people who have to wait to talk to somebody in another time zone in another part of the world. I don't know. Maybe it's a thought.
Yeah.
Is it possible that there's an upside benefit to, if this is true, that Scrum has popularity has nosedived? Maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe.
Because remember, for a long time, people were associating Agile with Scrum. It's like, oh, you mean Agile? No, we mean Scrum. That's
Right.
That's true.
piece. One little piece. Oh no,
They did not
Agile
understand the difference.
Equals right, exactly. So I don't know. Maybe it's falling out of favor, if that's even the case. Maybe that's not a bad thing.
And this is not to profess some undying love of Scrum. Scrum is a tool and of many tools, and it just happens to be the one that people who, for good or ill, when they think Agile, they think people mean Scrum. But as much as Scrum was popular and wide distributed, and the industrial complex of Scrum was alive and well, nobody was implementing Scrum straight out of the book, or few places were. Right?
Yeah.
It was all adapted at some point.
Yeah. Totally. I don't remember if I used this analogy here last week or what. No, I didn't use it last week. But I don't know if you guys remember in the 80s, the early 80s, when job boards used to ask you if you knew how to use computers.
Oh, yeah. Do you mean the job board, the newspaper?
Yes, exactly. Yes, they would call for new workers, and you had to know how to use Lotus 1-2-3, Microsoft Word. You have to be able to word process with a computer instead of nobody thinks to ask for that now. It's just sort of
the thing that
you know how to use Word. And
freaked me out is if you went to other markets and you looked at jobs in the newspaper, you would find things under computer science, or you'd find stuff under programming and things like that. But in the Chicago Tribune, where were all the jobs listed? Do you remember? It didn't matter. Didn't matter what it was. It was all under the heading of data processing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
It was before we were called IT,
Yeah.
information technology.
Yeah,
Yes,
that heading didn't exist. That was for sure.
It was just data processing. Mm-hmm. We were processing data
That's right.
I mean, I guess that's true.
on cards with little holes in them.
Sitting there with a deck of playing cards and an awl.
AWL.
Yeah, I did that. I pressed that in my head. It's like, you're programming playing cards with... No, you weren't.
So,
All right, well, I'm glad we solved that.
well, so did we? I don't know.
Well, Marcelo
it's
texted
coming
me
back.
back.
This is where I want to consider this is how is this being helpful? How is this helpful to where we're going or where anyone's going? You have a bunch of folks sitting on the sidelines pontificating about how everything is.
You took the word right out of my mouth, pontificating. Like my friend says, opinions are like everybody's got one, and apparently in social media, LinkedIn included, feel that hey, this is my bullhorn for giving you my opinion. But does it move the ball forward? Does it help? Does it help either side? Does it help customers? Does it help people looking for gainful employment?
Yeah.
How is that helpful?
Well, I can see, I
Yeah.
mean, depending on the source, there's a lot of sources out there. You get some folks who say, Scrum is dead, look at my thing instead. Right? It's like they're vying to be the next Scrum, right? Or the next big thing. Let's not say the next Scrum, because that's limiting, right? They just want to get Scrum off the playing field. So think of me instead, and you can name, and we've dropped names of people who have their own tailored stuff. We've had some guests who have had their own tailored stuff, and they're all doing the same thing. It's the same thing that started the whole Agile Alliance in the first place. The first thing that got the Scrum, or sorry, the Agile Manifesto, was a bunch of competitors coming together and just saying, okay, fine, let's just for a moment stop arguing and let's talk about what we all agree on. And that concept's been lost. It's gone back to the infighting between brands. Right now and maybe it's because the market got so big and so open and it was easy to get into. And so it didn't matter what flavor you were playing. Everybody had a place at the table. But now belts are tightening, the market's getting tougher, and so your corner of the industry is now all important to you, and protecting that, growing it, and if that means at the expense of other people, then that's what you do. So
that's terrible business, though. Like that doesn't last long term.
Yeah. And how does that help customers?
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
There's no focus on the customer there.
Yeah, amazing, huh? That focus is completely on
Your competitor.
The vendor. Did you say the predator? You said competitor.
Competitor. That is my favorite. One of my favorite movies. The
Competitor?
I mean, the Predator.
The Competitor?
Yeah,
The one where they're in the jungle and they're slashing.
yeah,
prices.
exactly. But
Get to the chopper.
Choppa.
You can't see the invisible hand of the market. It's just this black presence that you just goes through the jungle.
There you
But,
go.
but the problem is that if you're not focusing, and everybody likes to talk about, the customer, but they fail to truly try to get inside the brain of the customer and see things from the perspective of the customer. And so, it's a lot of talk, a lot of customer-centric talk, but that's all it amounts to is talk. Unless you're actually doing it, if you're spending time bad-mouthing your competitors or whatever, then you're not focused on your customer. That's my contention.
Well, here's an interesting thought. All these models we're supporting, we're using, they're all customer centric. We want our clients to be focused on their customer, right? That's the whole point of them. You're going to install an operating model for you that will allow you to have better focus on your customer. But there's a eat your own dog food aspect of this, which is, I think, what you were saying is that our customer, as the service provider, is our client, and our focus should be on our client. Our focus should be on what they need and what they need in order to get better at what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, if we're focusing on killing our competitors so that they only look at me, that's not focusing on our client.
Right. And so the customer gets lost in the fray. So while everybody's shooting it out, the customer goes unserved. And of course, if they're observing that, they're thinking, well, that was very useless.
Yeah, I'm not really required for this fight, am I? I'll just go home.
Yeah. just wake me up in a year when you guys work it all out. Like I'll talk to whoever's left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is the answer?
Oh,
Focus on value.
maybe focus on your client.
Yeah, well, model the behaviors. I mean, if we really talk, if we're talking the talk, let's walk that talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, do what you said you were going to do. Take the same advice that you're selling. Have some integrity, 100%.
And that's where it starts. Like you get into a client organization, you start out with them, and there's always, there's those little missives that consultants will use: seek first to understand, and things like that. And that's really, spend more time listening, less time talking. Like try and figure out what the heck is going on before you start professing to install an operating model. And that's where a lot of, these, like the giant framework that shall not be named.
I was wondering if you were going to say it.
Just it's a big tent. Yeah, something in here will click sooner or later.
I feel unsafe. I need an adult. Yeah, no, I think that's the part that's fascinating to me is that, like, you can also, while better serving clients, you can also learn a bunch of stuff about how this stuff actually works, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the people we've talked to in the past, like the throughput accounting experts, people who specialize in flow, like there are better, it goes back. What does that manifesto say? We are finding better ways to do this stuff by doing it and helping other people do it. Like that's a real, like that's, sure, our clients should develop an appreciation for the value and the power of that, but like that could be primarily for us too, right? Maybe not primarily, but I mean,
right.
If you could get way better, right?
We're not giving a punch list, follow these steps and success will be yours. Right. And we don't have that. We can't walk into an organization and check off a list and look, we've succeeded at the consulting ning.
Well, you could do that if that's what you consider the consultant-ninging. But
I have a title for this podcast.
If you say it enough times, it becomes a word. Is that what?
That's right. The consultant-ning.
Look, we were looking for a new name for the podcast. The consulting-inging.
This consulting-inging thing.
Right. Well, I don't know. I think it's striking enough. It could stand by itself. The consulting-inging. Anyway, the trick is to know which questions, right? Do you guys know this joke about the guy with the hammer who fixes the thing for a bunch of money? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
There's
I've heard a variation of that doesn't involve a hammer, but it just involves a marker. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So some people who are trying to do the consulting-inging think it's about the hammer. They think the hammer is where their power and their value comes from.
But why?
It's probably mostly what they can see. They haven't spent 20 years studying those machines and where they come from and how the differences, the ones built in Pittsburgh versus the ones built in Berlin, like, the different metallurgy. Like that's what I find so fascinating about the consulting game is that it's interdisciplinary. It's like, it's kind of, I don't want to be too self-serving and compare ourselves to doctors, but it's kind of like when a person shows up at your office and it's like, hey, I've got this, boy, I hurt. Can you fix me? There's a lot of potential things that you might need to do and check. Everything's a riddle, right? And think about how much stuff you need to know to be a good doctor. I think you need to know a lot of stuff to be an effective consulting-inging person.
Effective.
The human part, the flow, the queuing theory, like all organizational, like all of that stuff. You might need to dip into any one of those.
culture change, things
Psychology,
that drive. Yeah.
communication. Yeah. So there is definitely an opportunity to do better and do, I can't remember exactly what the manifesto says, but to be more effective by doing it and helping other people do it. But the people who are not interested in that challenge just see a dude with a hammer and it's like, oh, I got to get that hammer. No,
Yeah.
the hammer represents 20 years of study and screwing stuff up and hitting stuff with screwdrivers instead, or the wrong hammer, right? And not knowing why, not understanding the cause and effect, not having any theories that you can apply, right? Never checking any outcomes and logging any data and testing your theories with data. There's
Yeah.
no feedback loop, right? But it's easy to walk in and hit shit with a hammer and issue a $20,000 invoice.
Yeah.
But
Is it
like-
do you think it's a lack of curiosity?
yes,
Or
in some cases, it depends on who you're talking about. I've definitely run into lack of curiosity. I don't know if that's primarily the problem across the. I wouldn't say that, but like, I mean, it's a great gig. You get paid a lot of money to come in and launch these things, and it's like, what does it mean to launch the thing? Well, here's these 9 things. Are these 9 things true? Yes, they're true. But and I've just slandered a whole bunch of people, right? They're not all like that in training and
When
consulting.
when you say curiosity, a lack of curiosity, on whose part?
Well, I guess I was talking more about the consultant or the person trying to help.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you meant the client, a lack of curiosity from the client, or a lack of curiosity from the consultant.
Well, you see that too. I think it's a human thing. I think it expresses. Here's the
Now,
thing,
that's even more interesting,
isn't
because
it?
we always hear that humans, we have advanced because of our innate curiosity. Is that not true then? Or we just don't bring that to the table in our work environments?
I think that's closer to it. We don't bring it to the table as much. So here's the tension that I see. Yes, human beings are inherently curious, right? Just to mess with stuff, just out of idle interest is sort of. But also, like, it's hard to survive. And up until, well, I'm going to widen out the context. Up until the last 100 years or so, starvation was a huge problem for people. There's this book called How to Pitch Anything. I don't know if I've talked about this book, but this book talks about how in order to get somebody to buy something, you have to break through their defenses, their mental defenses. If I bring something to you, it doesn't go straight to your forebrain, the rational part, that, right? You have to break through the brainstem. So if I bring something new to you, your first thought is, can I eat this? Will this kill me? Can I have sex with this thing? Right? Like, there's a couple of buckets. I know you, Jeff. Don't lie to me.
It's fight or flight.
It's fight or
comes-
flight or other,
Right.
couple other F's.
Does this
Yeah.
represent a danger to me, or is this something that,
Yeah.
right?
Or is it valuable? Like, will it do something? So that's why if I bring to you this new
See,
idea
I don't
about
think
the
I
PI
don't
planning,
think the reptilian brain is that valuable. The reptilian
that's
brain
exact-
is just
that's what I'm getting at. So if I
Yeah.
bring you a very valuable idea, but you can't have sex with it, right? It's probably going to bounce off your brainstem. This is a metaphorical conversation. It's so
Okay.
It explains the lack of curiosity. You're busy. You have a bunch of stuff. All of your energy for the day, your focus, your attention is already accounted for. Can you afford to take 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes to invest in this unsexy but potentially valuable idea? No, you don't. You know all the things you have to execute, and you'll barely get that stuff done during the day. So it's like, you could frame it as a lack of curiosity. You could also frame it as people just trying to be responsible and do what they're responsible to do, and they don't see the value, so they don't see the value in going down that 20-minute. You see what I'm saying? It's not that people are deliberately uncurious; it's that they're busy.
So we're not there. We're functioning in an environment that does not tolerate or
Might not
give
reward
room
it.
for or reward it, curiosity.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
you can,
if you're not rewarded for it, then why am I going to spend time for it?
because here's the thing: you could investigate three things you were curious about, and they're all winners, and you're a genius, right? Or they're all dry holes, and you just f***ed your entire day. The stuff you were supposed to do, you didn't get done, right? So it's like it's a judgment call. Like, where do you know where the gold is if you haven't dug yet? I think that explains a lot of it. People are just busy.
Well, but
But
busy
I
brings
can't-
you what?
Whatever the way that we do it already, the way
Right.
that
They're busy.
isn't
They're busy
working.
with the way things are. Or
Right.
they're
Which
maintaining
they've
the
asked. Yes,
yeah.
but
And-
they've
and
asked
that's
us
their
for
job.
help, and so
But their job is to keep things going. There's
You-
momentum in societal pressures. There's the the first job of any bureaucracy is to maintain itself.
yeah. But you want to find the people who think their job is to execute the current responsibilities and find a better way.
Yeah.
Yes. But if they don't function in an environment that permits that allows that gives them space for that, then they're just going to go towards, hey, it pays the bills.
You see how interesting this is? This is a great job. I don't know why everybody doesn't want to do this job, right? It's so when you get into it, it's like, why are people doing this stuff that they don't like? So, but some people
it is
just
a great
want to-
job, and a lot of people tried to get into doing the great job, but they weren't
But
in
did
it
they,
for this
though?
reason.
Exactly. I think they were trying to do a different job. I think they were trying to.
Which comes back to Jeff. You had proposed a title change at one point, not for the podcast, but for the role of agile coaching.
Oh, yeah. Organizational effectiveness coach.
I didn't
I
hear
mean,
scrum.
and here's the thing. I'm not
Mhm.
trying to be a label generator because
Yeah.
that's what that's essentially what I'm doing is
As long as you're an
throwing
agile
out
label
ideas.
generator, it's fine.
and it might sound catchy. It may actually even be apropos. That said, the danger here is, okay, so then you settle on some new term, some new label, and everybody gloms onto it, and it's like, yeah. And then,
Me
then it
too.
just becomes this, yeah, exactly. It becomes this worn thing. And, a couple years down the road, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, you're an organizational effectiveness, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. It's still got
And
the
so-
C word in it.
Having the label is much less relevant than what are you doing. But yes, if you want a label to differentiate yourself until you're not differentiated anymore because everybody else has called themselves that. I mean, think about the first agile coach. They were thinking, yeah, man, I'm an agile coach. Yeah, I got this. And for maybe a couple of years, they were like, yeah,
I
this
know
is
how
good.
to do
Riding
agile.
the
I
great.
know how to be agile. I know how to help other people be agile
I'm
too.
driving this
I'm going
gravy
to
train.
help them do that. And that was coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I know football. I've played football. I'm going to help teams play football better. I was a coach, right? It made total sense.
But
And
the value of
then-
football is so known in that, to take that example, everybody knows why you love football and why you pay for football and what good football looks like. So it's maybe not a great, I don't mean to criticize your analogy, but I think that where agile people got lost, it's like, well, okay, this sounds great, agile, but like, why?
Well, okay. I'm
Close that
gonna
loop.
double down on the analogy then and say you can be great at football and you play a team that isn't great at football and you clean their clock. You can
Totally.
be great at football, you play another team that's also great at football and you have a contest. And That's businesses in the marketplace. You're a great company, you perform well, but you're competing with another company that's not so good, you win. You compete with a company that's also as good as you are, you've got a real battle on your hands. And the edge came from what helped make that team that good. Was it having, I can't say this because it's not a football reference. I was going to shift to basketball.
That's too much. That overwhelms my brain.
So the point being, what is it that helps make the team successful? What makes the team do the good football? And is it the coach? Is it an inherent capability within the members of the team, the players? Is it a magical amalgam of all of them coming together?
Yes.
Right? And does the coaching help them get better at what they do? The one difference with the sports team, though, is the coach is always present. The coach doesn't stop.
Yeah, I guess the point I was making is that, like, if it's a school, they know why they value football, so they're definitely paying for a football coach. Or if it's like a professional, like, people love their football, so there would be a role to make the football better. Whereas in Agile or in business, it's like, well, you could take an Agile approach, I guess. There might be other ways that are just as good.
When you said the coach is always there, what did you mean?
I mean, in football, I'm not aware of any football teams that are running
coachless.
Coachless. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Always present.
Yeah.
Part of the football.
Not out on the field. Well, at least not physically out on the field. Maybe they're buzzing in your ear, but
always present on the sidelines and directing or guiding things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Having that view from the outside. The players are out on the battlefield. They're doing their thing. They can see what they see, but maybe they don't see a bigger picture from the sideline. Maybe they don't see they missed something, and the coach is there to help point that out. It's a valuable role. You might
know. I mean, I think I might say.
No, go on. What might you say instead?
I might say instead that I wonder if long term this sort of just gets absorbed into what it means to be a good leader or a good manager.
Sure.
I think Jeff maybe agrees with me.
And that was actually, you were reading my mind. There's a little brain cell back here was saying, hey,
help me.
Isn't that what we would
I'm all alone in here.
Isn't that what we would encourage and expect from
trapped for decades.
What we call middle to upper management, to act as leaders, and in that role, essentially coach.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's part of owning the system and managing the system. Like, part of the system are these people who need a certain alignment, attitude, understanding of how we do stuff here, why it's effective. Maybe the leaders need to own the system, and the people in the system as part of the system. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
And there are different styles. I mean, to harken back to a sports analogy, you think about a coach like Phil Jackson. I mean,
basketball. I was going to go there.
A very unique.
Now I'm lost.
a very unique style that was much more cerebral and much less, you go over there and do this. It was much more bringing out the best. Well, first of all, recognizing what the capabilities of the people on the team were and trying to bring out the best in each of them, at the same time working as a collective unit and dealing with the natural dysfunctions of human behavior. I mean, everybody has their own predilections and peccadillos and weird things. whether it's Jordan or Pippen or whoever, and they all had their respective talents. But, as we know, you can't just throw a bunch of people with talent into a test tube and say, okay, voila, I've got success. I've got a team. No, that's not how it works.
Look,
They
I
actually
hired
have
3
to
Michael
mesh.
Jordans, and they're all on a
They're-
team together, and
They hate each other's guts.
they hate each other's guts. They're always fighting each other for the ball.
They're all ball hogs. Exactly. And so they don't
Yeah.
function as a team. But as a leader, a good leader, you're recognizing, okay, so how can I get each of these elements to function together to accomplish the goal, which is obviously to win.
It sounds like systems thinking to me. I don't know. I tend to over index on
No,
stuff.
no,
but-
it does. It does sound like that because any interaction is a system, so it is systems thinking.
Yeah.
But not to reduce it to a state of unimportance, because you've hit the nail on the head. It is a system. You need to learn to work in it. And the thing is that maybe we, as in corporate America, has not armed our middle managers with the skills to be a Phil Jackson. Right? They'll look at, and I've seen managers who have come to me and said, look, I don't have a team full of Michael Jordans. I may not even have a single Michael Jordan. So how am I supposed to turn them loose? How am I supposed to do that? And
Well, I
our
mean,
job
if I was
really
Michael
has
Jordan,
to be at some point coaching that manager into being a better coach himself.
you might want to coach him into being the kind of person that Michael Jordan wants to come work for. That was my cutting question. Like
That's a great,
If I was-
that's great.
if I
that's
was
a
Michael
perfect
Jordan,
way
why
to
would
say
I?
it.
Yeah, why would I want to come work here? Yeah. No, not really.
Well, yeah, maybe. Although, I mean, if you go back to reality, I mean, Phil wasn't the coach that was coaching the Bulls at the time. It was Doug Collins. So,
Oh.
and that's not a slam against Doug, because I mean, Doug was a great coach as well,
Yeah.
but he had a very different style. But the whole point is, in that role of leadership / coach, you're expecting, you want to draw talent to your team. And if somebody smells dysfunction, hopefully they run as far in the opposite direction as possible. But when you were talking about that, I thought, so when organizations say, well, or an individual says, well, I don't have a team full of Jordans. Yeah, well, who's it? David Marquet?
Yeah.
Turned the ship around.
Yeah.
He was handed a unit,
Mm-hmm.
a command. And as I understand it, they weren't all Michael Jordans. In fact, probably none of them were Michael Jordans. And yet, he was able to get them to function as a team to outperform everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. He put a system in place that was bigger than any of the people.
Yeah. And they all had
Yeah.
specialization. They all had a role. They all had something they were good at and things they knew. And he didn't know them. So he had to tease that information out of them by letting them do their job. He gave them the freedom to do their job as long as they were following within certain guidelines, or they were, there were certain things he kept control over. Right. There are certain things I can't just let anybody go fire nuclear missiles. That would be bad. Right. But within certain operating parameters, he would give freedom to his people to do what they were doing. And it was an evolutionary thing. He wanted them to learn to think about the kinds of things he would want them to do and to think that same way. Right.
Do we know where he got that idea? Did he just come up with that, or did he read some other book and decide? I guess he must have. Everybody gets stuff from somewhere. So what's interesting is that he created a system that was specific and tailored enough for his situation. Because like Jeff, what you're talking about, Phil Jackson was not directive, I guess is what you would say.
Right.
But he also had a team of people who worked you couldn't find anybody who worked harder at being excellent at their jobs than Jordan, and like those people. Like I'm guessing, like I don't know a lot about Spaceball, but like I'm guessing Phil Jackson knew, like what he had to do was direct or provide feedback or perspective. Like he didn't have to get out there and be like, "Hey, I need you to do." Or you think maybe he did sometimes. I need some more reps.
Well, he did. He was a basketball. He was a very good basketball player in his time, and so, and we've talked about somebody that's in that leadership role still having the chops. They've got some background, so they're not just talking theory.
Yeah,
They've actually lived it. They can do it. Now, did he exercise that? I don't know that he did or didn't. I wasn't in the room or the gym at the time. That said, he had a much more, I think, a much more subtle approach in being able to draw that talent out and knowing what somebody's capabilities were, and maybe even pushing their buttons to the degree that they can go beyond what their normal capabilities are. This is all about building the environment that's ideal for that, though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The system.
An effective environment.
An effective environment.
Yeah, so it's all leadership at some level. Like this, either you create this situation or you don't, that allows you to successfully do the submarine thing or the ball thing.
Well, I wouldn't want to reduce it to that. I wouldn't say it's all leadership. Leadership is obviously a vital part of that, right?
I
but
guess
you
what
still
I mean
have
is you're
to
ultimately responsible for it. Would that be more fair?
Yeah.
Like if the ship goes down, captain goes with it, right?
Well, I wish.
I'm pretty sure they all go down.
That doesn't always happen, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking in terms of ownership of the. Anyway. Okay. Well, Marcelo did get back to me, by the way. He's teaching a class, so he can't join us this morning.
Teaching.
Yeah.
Well, good on him.
So what is going to become of the education, the agile education segment of the industry?
I don't think. I don't know if I want to say this. My concern is that it becomes commoditized.
You don't think it already is?
Well,
I'm pretty sure it already is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So training is a product. If you have a product to sell, you're selling that product. You're selling know-how. You're selling enablement of something that people didn't have an understanding of before.
Yeah.
If there's a need for that skill, there will be a market for that training. The thing I think that, and when it was all Scrum all the time, the fact that you could take a Scrum Master class and learn how Scrum works was useful information. When 15 other certification bodies formed out of the ether and started teaching that same skill with their own different flair, it was a reflection of the fact that the market existed, but it didn't do much to improve the situation. In a sense, it became, you had said earlier, the drive to innovate, the drive to get better. There were people who I'm selling this one thing. We're maintaining the status quo. We're maintaining this as the new thing. And then there were others who went and said, but this doesn't always work. I've had situations where this doesn't fit, and I'm going to create my own flavor. I'm going to create my own variation of it, and I'm going to try marketing that. And so as whatever social media has taken off, visibility has grown In the early days of Scrum, you didn't have the instant gratification of getting 200 impressions or 2,000 impressions on your post on LinkedIn, right? And which incidentally is probably has more to do with what's driving all the Agile is dead posts that are out there right now, because they get a lot of impressions. A lot of people pause and look at it, either from a the hell it is or yeah standpoint. It doesn't matter. You drew moths to your flame, and that's all that matters. Is you got the likes, you got the looks, you got the vision.
You mean like people slowing down to look at the car crash from the other side of the highway, kind of a thing?
Yeah,
But that's not
We're checking to see if are there any ambulances there. Maybe maybe it would be.
Yeah.
Is this article going to actually really show me the dead body, or am I just gonna get slowed down in traffic a little bit?
Yeah.
That's what I think impressions on LinkedIn are. Is people
So it's a
slowing down to
vanity
check and
metric.
see if there's a body. What?
Is that a vanity metric then?
Oh yeah.
They're not really interested in vehicular safety, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
They
It's
just want to see the blood. Yeah.
Which is
So you get a million impressions.
Yeah.
Can you convert those into an actual revenue paying client?
I don't know about LinkedIn, but on YouTube you can.
First, you need something interesting to say, though.
Yeah.
And people to
And
like
people
and
to look.
subscribe.
Like and
And
subscribe.
like and subscribe. Yeah.
Like and subscribe. For more insightful musings like this.
Oh my God. This feels like
Ben?
it has been an Agile thing. It feels like it. I've been Matt Beam.
I've been Mike Markey.
Yeah. And Jeff. Single.
Singleton. And we will see you most likely next week, a week from today, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Central, for the next live stream of
Your
Here's
Fruit
This Agile
Loops
Thing.
in hand,
Yes.
if that's what you're consuming.
Good.
I'm going to press this button right now. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
See
Bye.
ya.
Bye.